Hi, this is Yvon Prehn, and this is a video book review of my new book that's really an old book that I've reprinted, Back to Basics, Writing and Design Skills for Church Communicators. Let's now take a look inside so that you can see how this book can really help you with some of the key tasks that you need to learn how to do to have really professional-looking church communications. Here is the basic book. This is in PDF format. Now, the book is actually available in two formats. You can either get it as a downloadable PDF from my website, effectivechurchcom.com, or you can get it in print format from Amazon.com. Now, let me just go through the book very briefly and show you how it can be helpful to you. First of all, I start out in the book telling people why I did the reprint. Things haven't really changed that much from when I first put out the book, in that people who are asked to do communications work in the church oftentimes do not have the benefit of graphic arts training, training in topography, layout, design, a lot of these really very difficult skills that you need to do to create professional looking communications. So I wrote this book to help people in all of these areas: in planning, grids and templates, writing, topography, graphics, photography, layout, proofing, paper, print production, and managing. Now, I wrote this book in 1993, and of course, some of the technical equipment things that I refer to are outdated. Design skills, that never changes. So let's just look at a few of the things. Just an overall introduction. And then on planning your publications, I have a very, very useful sheet, and I walk you through it where you think through why you are doing what you are doing, and where you take an in-depth look at your audience. And then I show you how to, once you've done that, come up with the graphics, the design ideas, the text that will go with what you want to accomplish in ministry. Then after that, I show you grids and templates. This is something that's foundational to any good design. Think of it as the underlying structure of your publication. Sadly, I see so many things done in churches today where stuff is just all over the page and scattered, and it does not look professional. People don't really know why. Well, this chapter will explain it, will show you the theory and the background to the grids and templates that are available for you now, really in all of the programs, in Word and Publisher, in InDesign. All of these sorts of things are based on a grid and template system, and this will give you some idea of why they're useful and how to work with them. I also show you how to measure things the typographic way, and that's with points and picas. The thing that makes this so easy is that they're more finely divided, and you don't get into the really odd fractions. You can change your measurements in Publisher, in any of the different things, to picas and points, and it will just make it so much easier. Once again, this chapter tells you all about why that's a useful thing to do. Then design. Oh my goodness, people have that just so incorrect. Today, a lot of times people think it's just all this fancy schmancy stuff. No, I really emphasize here how design is, yes, it's arrangement of parts, form, and color, but look at the very first part of it. It is to sketch an outline for a plan, to contrive, to plan to do, to intend, a plan. That's what your design is. You come up with a design that has an intentional plan to communicate your message. Once again, this chapter will go into detail on how to learn to do that. I show you how one of the best ways for good designs is to copy and adapt. Start a file where you have all kinds of samples. This can be very, very useful. Get out that pica ruler, measure, see how other things are put together. It'll make you skillful in your own. Writing for desktop publishing, I have done a lot of seminars on this. I have other publications on it, but this is a foundational chapter, and it shows you how to break your material into 3 levels. This is one of the best examples where you have just straight text, and how by not changing anything in it, and this is something, by the way, that nobody's going to read. They just glance at it and then they don't read it. I turned it into this, which gets much, much better retention, reading, all of that you want people to do to get your message. The things that I teach you in this chapter work extremely well, both for websites and for print. This is one chapter that I strongly recommend that you make copies of and you pass around to the different people in your church who are doing writing. It will help them get their message across. I not only talk about writing lengthy text, but I go into everything from subheads and headlines, how to make them more powerful, how to do short things for articles that will help people read them, call outs, how to write captions, why they are so important. I also talk about writing for the eye, and this is incredibly important because people need to see something in their mind's eye. If they don't, they have nothing to respond to. Here's description number 1. I want to share with you how wonderful the Prison Fellowship Pen Pal program is. Now, what do you see in your mind's eye when I read that to you? You don't really see anything. But instead, listen to this. Close your eyes and just listen to this. Mark had been in prison for 2 years. During that time, he never had a visitor, never received a letter or a phone call. His first contact with anyone outside the prison came the day he got his first letter from his Prison Fellowship Pen Pal. You see, in that, you see Mark, don't you? You don't just get this vague description. And when you learn to write for the eye, that's when your writing becomes powerful. Once again, the chapter has lots more about this and how to tell stories, how to use this to get across ministry concepts, how to get across theological ideas, statistics, things like that. Again, more things on telling stories, telling the tiny tale, and additional just practical how-tos on writings. One of the most important things, I just have to emphasize this to all of you watching it, ignore the voice within. One famous writer said, I'm no good. I'm desperately upset. I have no discipline anymore. And I didn't really tell you where this came from. I looked back and I thought, oh, why didn't I do it in the book? But anyway, that quote came from John Steinbeck, who wrote it when he was just finishing The Grapes of Wrath, arguably one of the best novels that's ever been written. And so often, especially in the church office, because you're doing things of such incredible eternal value, you won't feel like your work is accomplishing anything, but it is. Just don't listen to the enemy and press ahead. This chapter will give you lots more information. This next chapter is so important. Topography. There are few skills that are more essential for really good-looking professional work, both in type and on the web. This chapter will explain what type is all about, how the sizing works, what the different terms are, how you should modify things, what makes for good-looking typefaces, how to combine them, how to combine styles, just justification, rag right, all these kinds of things that make a huge, huge difference in how professional your material works and why things work, why other things don't. Very important. Graphics, just a little thing here. Here we have a line. Well, it is just a line, or is it? Here the line cuts things off. Here the line just is kind of decorative. Here it doesn't really do much of anything. Here it adds a formal element to the page. Here it leads from the writer's name up to the text. And here it frames the page. Just showing you, don't take anything for granted that you put on the page. Everything has a purpose. Every graphic element says something. Borders, how they can make stuff look cramped or they can really outline something. How reverses work, what to do, what not to do in them. This you can read really well. This one you can't, and I see that a lot of times, and I show you why and tell you why this doesn't work. The joy of dingbats, how much fun they are. Now, a lot of the things that I say on clip art are outdated because so much more is available to us, but the tips that I give you on cropping it, on repeating it, on how you want to blend the same style with your typeface, all of that is still very useful. Photography, some tips on today we can of course do things digitally, but just how to take good people pictures. Here we have a picture of a pastor, and there's nothing wrong with that, but look at the same pastor when he's engaged in talking to children. People in ministry tend to really come alive when they're engaged with other people. So I recommend that you do that, and lots of other tips. Just some really good layout examples, very simple, very clean, very clear things that you can do and still very useful. You won't go wrong with following just very clean, clear, simple layouts. You want people to get your message, not just be super impressed on what a great creative layout you did. And all of these will inspire you to just do clean, clear, simple work. An article on, or rather a chapter on proofing, and the thing that I recommend here most of all is that everyone use the same symbols. I remember one time I was working with a ministry, and one of the chief pastors there would always just put a question mark by something, and that just made me paranoid. Did he not like what I said? Did I spell it wrong? Was it the wrong word? I had no idea what that meant. But you see, if you all use the same exact symbols, then everybody knows what's going on, and it'll just work so much better. And I have lots of other tips to make your life easier and better. Style guides, highly, highly helpful if you want everybody to literally be on the same page and do things in the same way. And I show you how to create a simple one for your ministry. Again, additional tips on different kinds of proofing, and know when to quit. We're probably never going to do anything perfectly. And I love this quote by Winston Churchill where he said, "Perfection is spell paralysis." We always work on such tight deadlines, and people a lot of times will say, stuff's just gotten a lot sloppier today. Well, yeah, it has, but in the past, you used to maybe put out one brochure or one newsletter, in 6 months or whatever. Now you've got to do it in the afternoon. Well, of course there's going to be more errors, but just be kind to each other, do what you can, bring people into proof, and know when to quit. Some tips on paper, printing, and production. Paper is still very, very important. The difference between hot pink cheap paper and a nice, heavier, say parchment-looking paper can make all the difference in the world for a simple brochure that you print. Some tips on managing desktop publishing and doing the publications work in the office. Remember, it's always going to be a challenge. It's always going to be hard because you are dealing with people's eternal destinies. Don't forget you have an enemy, but don't forget that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. There you have a quick video review of Back to Basics, Essential Foundational Skills for Church Communicators. It is available as an immediate ebook download on effectivechurchcom.com. For members of our ebook and template club, it is free, and you can share as many copies as you want with the different communicators in your church. It is also available on Amazon.com in print format. The links to it will be right in the text along with this video, and I do hope you get the book. I have seen in the past how just this one simple book can make all the difference in the world on the professional quality of your church publication. So get it, and may the Lord greatly bless you as you serve him in church communications work.